So here we go. Going to give it a little bit of choke. I don't think it probably needs it. And starter's on the floor. Is it in gear? No. So we've got our fan belt squeal back, but there's nothing we can do about that. I think we'll probably let it idle for a minute, just let it warm up a bit, let the oil circulate, because it hasn't been running nearly, well, it must be about 6 months really since I pulled it out of the garage. So let's just have a look around and let it warm up. So we've got our gauges here which kind of move. The fuel gauge here bears no resemblance to what's in the tank. The charge, we've got a little bit of charge there, we've got a charge indicator. We've got some oil pressure. Does that go up if we rev it? Probably not. Let's try it. Yep, so we've got some oil pressure there, that's always a good sign. Speedo doesn't work, so that's good. And we've got another fuel gauge down here which kind of works a little bit. But the main thing, we've got a radio, and that's the most important. So first is ridiculously low geared, which is kind of a granny gear. You could literally get out and you could walk a lot faster. So we don't probably need first, but I'm not used to driving it, so we're in first now. Don't think the brakes work either. I suppose we'll find out. Right. Oh god, yeah, the brakes are pretty poor. There's second. There's third. And off we go. Now I'm just going to take it dead steady because I don't know how to drive this thing. The door open, it sounds like it is. Is that there? Maybe it's not. Sounds like it is though.
It's banging again.
Even going to fourth, but I think that might be pushing it a little bit, so let's just take it nice and steady. Of course we can crawl up to this junction. There's a car coming. Should we just plough through the junction? It's this car, this bloke's problem, isn't it? Fucking, there we go. Let's go for fourth. I reckon we're doing about 30 miles an hour. We're in fourth. Everything's rattling like a bugger, which is probably normal. Passenger's door is open. Why people can't shut doors? It can't be that hard, but apparently it is. Oh god, these brakes are really truly appalling. But that's what gearboxes and clutches are for, is to stop using it, as everybody knows. I'm going to try pressing the brakes a bit harder, so be careful. Oh, you can lock it up. Slam the bugger. So you can lock it up, but it still doesn't seem to stop. Oh well. Maybe not all the brakes are working, maybe we're just on the front or something. So we'll take it steady. The mirrors pointed at kind of anything useful. They don't. So let's go for a right turn. Got shaky leg syndrome. Ridiculously steep hill, so let's see how we go. That didn't go well. Gear. Okay, took it steady. Don't know why it didn't want to go up the hill, but let's check it again. Nothing behind me. Feels as though we're not getting any fuel.
Yeah, it's not happy.
I don't know what to do really. Don't seem to want to go up the hill in seconds, so we're going to have to crawl up in first. I don't really know what's wrong with it. I'll let this car come past me. It's a hell of a steep hill, this. I'll let this other car come past. Could have gone better, this, couldn't it? Oh well. Out of here. pedal's fine, it's just got no power when I put my foot down. Forgetting what I'm doing. So it'll be. It was doing before seems to have stopped again. Never had it to start doing it in a minute, we can tell. It's pulling it third now. Like a fuel starvation problem. Andy. He knows a lot more about carburetors and ignition than me. Just so I've done it, I might buy a new fuel pump and some new fuel filters. So here's a steep hill now, so let's see if the bugger will get up there and give it some beans. Out. Well, I've just managed to limp home in the truck, and I just thought I'd give you a quick look under the bonnet. I know that you're unlikely to see anything obvious, but you might as well see what the setup is, and then if anybody's got any ideas, they can let me know. I personally think it's a fuel problem, maybe a blockage in a fuel line or something like that. So there's the carburettor, a little bit of staining under the fuel bulb here. The car's actually been parked for probably about 3 or 4 months, and I do wonder if the fuel in it has gone off a bit, because these modern fuels are not particularly good. And last time I did run it, it was fine. Feels as though we might have a little bit of a leak there, because there's a little bit of a gummy, oily residue. So maybe a little bit of a carb cleaner would be in order, or maybe at some point maybe even a carb rebuild. Although I'm a great believer in, if it's not broke, you know, leaving stuff alone. But the you know, the car starts on the button, it starts up very easily and it idles well. It just seemed that whenever I was opening the accelerator up, it just seemed to die, it just seemed to cut out. And somehow I'm just thinking that that's maybe a fuel delivery problem. What I did at the side of the road is I did actually just disconnect the fitting here, because I couldn't get it off the carburettor. And I just turned it on, and there was fuel coming out of it kind of in spurts, because these things kind of pulse, but I wouldn't say it was a fantastic steady stream, so maybe that needs a bit more investigation. And I'm looking at the fuel filter now, and it's difficult to see. I think there's a little bit of crud in the bottom of that. It looks a bit dirty. It's a shame I can't see it. I wonder if I can just get underneath it and have a look from the other side. Now, it may not take a lot to give these symptoms that we were getting. You know, it could just be even a bit of dirt in a fuel line, or maybe there's a bit of dirt falling in front of the tank, or maybe it's a combination of lots of different factors. But I do wonder if the electric fuel pump is any good, and if it delivers enough pressure and things like that. So that might be something to investigate. Looks like the original fuel pump would have obviously gone there, so I do wonder, does anybody think there's any point in reinstating the original mechanical fuel pump? I think I've heard that a lot of the aftermarket ones that you can buy these days aren't very good. A lot of people seem to buy them and have failures with them, so maybe an electric fuel pump will be more reliable, but I'm not dead sure. So again, If you know, leave it in your comments. I wonder if I can just get under the vehicle and have a look and see if the underside of this fuel filter looks dirty. The element doesn't look particularly clean, does it? And the fuel, well, the fuel looks okay, but as I say, maybe it's between 4 and 6 months old, so maybe if the fuel is just getting on the old side, that could be enough just to cause me problems. Oh, it actually looks as though there could be quite a lot of sediment in the bottom of this fuel filter. Sorry, you're probably being blinded by the sun, but there's nothing I can do about that. Can you see that? There's a very dark stain at the bottom of it, so that's got to be very high up on the list of things to do, isn't it, to try and put a new fuel filter in. And I've also noticed that these fuel lines perhaps need tying back. I think that was on my list of things to do, wasn't it, to try and tie these fuel lines back. So yeah, there's definitely some crud there, so maybe the tank is also full of crud as well. Yeah, can you see all the filth in there? That's going to be favourite. We should change this immediately. That's not good, is it? I should have spotted that before and changed it. The fuel tank in these is actually behind the driver and the passenger seat, which is seems like a perfectly sensible place to put it in the cab with you. You want to keep the fuel warm, don't you? So that's where it exits the bottom of the cab, and it goes into this copper tube which runs along here. And I've just noticed that seems to be a little bit of a lack of retaining clips on this, so it looks like a job that we could do is to actually retain this. We need to put some clips in the chassis, don't we, and stop that blowing around in the breeze, because that's not very good, is it? Oh, that doesn't look brilliant, does it? I've just noticed that there's lots of little brass shavings inside there. I don't know, is that the right distributor and stuff? I noticed there's a few different distributor caps and things you could put on here. This is all brand new. I did actually replace this when I first got the truck, but yeah, that's dirty. I think I did check the vacuum advance and retard with a little vacuum pump I've got, and I think that was working fine. I seem to think that maybe I got that scrape of copper inside. I think once I installed this cap slightly wrong, you can actually put it on slightly wrong, and I think for some reason, I don't know what it was, I think the edge of this was running inside the centre, the king lead in the centre there. I think the top of this, I don't know, electrical pickup if you like, I think sometimes if you're not careful, I can feel there's a bit of a rough spot. It catches when you put the lid on, so rather than running in the centre there, it actually just catches and runs round the edge, and that just took off some of the brass from inside it. Sorry, I'm not making a lot of sense. I'm trying to do two things at once, and that never works. So there's the electric fuel pump that we saw before, and the fuel line comes up there, and it's just loosely installed, and it snakes its way to this carburettor. So maybe a dose of carburettor cleaner and a bit of compressed air wouldn't go amiss either. So it looks like the next job will be to get to the bottom of these cutout problems, and I'm going to guess that it's more fuel related than electrically related. But again, this engine is new to me, and I suppose we've got to better do things like check the plugs, which I think are in okay condition because I did check them before. And the other thing we probably should do is just do a compression test on it so we know what we're doing. But I think for today maybe the panic's over, and I think I'm going to have a stiff whiskey, or maybe several of them, and I will see you again very soon.